The Florida housing market right now is a mystery, and I'm going to tell you why. It is this wild card between neighborhoods being up and down, especially like in the area where we live. We serve the Orlando metro, but we live in Venice, Florida, so we serve anywhere in the Orlando metro from Sarasota down to Port Charlotte, Inglewood areas. And if you're looking to buy or sell a home in any of those areas, we help a lot of people save money, avoid mistakes, and get answer those questions that are sometimes impossible to find online. And we'd love to help you too. Get a hold of us. Phone number is always in the top corner of the screen. You can call or text. But here's what we've been seeing, and this is craziness. And I'm not going to try to steer you to buy here or sell here, because we can help you do either. So like, we're not going to get you to try to move here, and we're not going to try to get you to move out of here either. We always keep it real here and want to make sure you understand exactly what's happening, not sugarcoating things, but also not doom and glooming things like a lot of people on YouTube like to do, because they get more people to watch their videos and click and get more money watching their videos and watching for a long time. So then they make a lot of money on ad revenue. I gotta call those people out in these videos because it just, I see the polarity of what happens. You get realtors trying to make everything sunshine and rainbows, and then you get people making sound like everything's crashing so they can just do the YouTube thing. I'm gonna keep it real. We have seen the smaller areas that are a little more lower priced lately in Florida rebound in a way. So here's what I gotta throw at you, and I'm gonna explain this to you. It's very simple. You might say like, oh, glaze over because he's doing numbers and data. It's very simple. Months of supply. So if you don't know what months of supply is, like, so a lot of the doom and gloom realtors, they'll like to push the whole like Florida is crashing because of the inventory. But they only talk the inventory because those numbers are easier to like look at and be like, oh, it's all-time high. But you also have all-time high of people looking to move to the area. Now, I shouldn't say right now. Obviously, like 2020 was higher, right? But there's still, compared to, you know, what it used to be, more, still some work from home options. We get a lot of people we help that are moving down because they can now work from home. So I know a lot of people are getting called back to the office, but there's also still a lot of people that can still work from home. And so there's still been more demand. And what months of supply does, it says, based on the pace that homes are selling right now, how fast they're selling right now, with the amount of homes that's out there, how many months would it take, if no more homes came on the market, how many months would it take for them to all sell? So it's a nice number because it takes into account both the inventory or the supply and the people looking to move to the area, the demand, and gives you a nice, tidy, simple number to kind of get a gauge for where things are at. And so 3 months or lower is generally considered to be a pretty strong seller's market, you know, so you're gonna pay above asking and all the craziest that was happening during the pandemic. If you are sitting closer to like 6 months, I'd say even like 5-6 months, and then you start getting about 6 months, pretty clear buyer's territory or market, you know, so you can get a little bit more of a deal. So generally lower priced areas, not all, but a lot, have started to dip in that months of supply and get closer to like around 3 months, Northport being one of them. Before anyone leaves a comment as to why this is happening, I'm gonna address all of it because, again, I'm not gonna sugarcoat anything or try to, like, you know, omit information, but getting closer to like 3 months of supply there. Inglewood, I wanna say, was one, and a couple of the other cities in the area. I'd have to revisit the data again, but I know like a lot of, like, in general, I was just looking at a lot of the data from different areas, and it's a lot of the smaller, you know, town feel and lower priced to begin with areas that the months of supply is coming down. Also, I should note, prices have definitely come down, and meanwhile, more higher priced areas, we've seen those areas stay a little bit more high on the months of supply. That being said, here's why the market is a mystery. This could change soon, we'll see. But the average sale to list ratio, another data number, I'll explain this in a second, has generally been looking steady, meaning, you know, we haven't seen a big change in the last few months for all of these areas. And generally for this area, there's gonna be micro pockets, like we also serve the Orlando metro, like I mentioned before, like within there's some pretty big fluctuations from pocket to pocket. But like in this Southwest Florida area, things are generally sitting around 97%. So what average sale to list ratio means is, just to make it neat and tidy, let's say a place is listed at $100,000, because that would be like your 100, you know, so for percents, it's easy to like do the math in your head. If it was listed for $100,000, I know that's probably not possible right now, but on average, you know, the median price people are actually paying for it would be like $97,000. So it means, you know, you can get a deal basically, and that percent shows you about what percent of a deal you could get. So, if it's 97%, you're probably gonna be able to get a 3% discount depending on the price, or if you're using us, because I can tell you we could probably get you better than that. We've helped some people get way better than that lately. A lot of people have been moving to the area with us, and we've been, big time helping some people save some money. But you got to know the market, the area, all these things about the home specifically. There's a lot of pieces that go into it. But that being said, that's the peculiar thing, because right now, and I think it's going to take, usually this is the way it works, it's going to take a little while for things to catch up. So what I mean by that is, with this 3 months of supply in some of these, more affordable areas like Northport, for example, it's going to take a little while, I think, for buyers to kind of catch on to, hey, there's not as much stuff on the market and people don't have as many options, and maybe we could see things start to flatten out with prices and maybe slightly go up. Now, to put some things into perspective as well as this goes, in this area, we have seen prices gradually decline over the last 2-ish years. And I know some people are going to leave comments and say, oh, they're way down or they're way up. And it's probably because you're watching doom and gloom realtors that are going to find that 1 month where things really went down and then they're going to rebound the next month because the lines tend to zigzag. But if you look at it as a whole trend, it's kind of been going like, or for you guys, it would be, let me flip this way, down. And so about 50K over the last 2 years decline in the Sarasota Northport metro, which I'm not saying is small. That's pretty significant. But that being said, we also saw places double in about 2 years as well in home values, so we haven't reached back to like down to where that was. So, the only people this is really a bubble, quote unquote, for is the people who bought, I'd say around 2022. But if you bought before like 2020, 2021, probably, you're probably sitting pretty okay yet with your property value. So something to keep things in perspective. So yeah, in some of those lower priced areas, we might see some of those prices start to level off. And we kind of have actually in a lot of areas, even like higher price to some degree over the last few months. And we've seen that median sale price in, even the higher price areas kind of flatten out the last few months. So we'll see how things go. There's definitely a seasonality to Florida like everywhere else. Our seasons are a little bit different than the rest of the country or most of the rest of the country. But that being said, we have seen things level out a little bit, and it makes you wonder if, okay, maybe, if things are going to go back up in price, if interest comes down again, maybe that could, be a factor that brings prices back up and competition back down. But I'll say this, we personally on a local basis have been crazy busy and sold a lot of homes the last 2 months, like probably more than we ever have, even during COVID. Just from personal perspective, things have been pretty nuts lately. That being said, I don't know that that's the case for everyone. So I don't want to again, just take my little perspective and say that's what's happening everywhere, because I don't know that for sure. And so I'm always going to rely more on the data, and that's kind of why I'm trying to give you some of that. So I'm not slanting things too much. But we've also heard, again, this is, just some stories, so it's not like big data, but stories of other builders from communities we've been to saying, yeah, they got busier. Other real estate agents busier. We're going to look at homes, and all of a sudden they're like, oh yeah, we can't get you in at this time because someone else wants to look at it, which wasn't much of an issue over the last year or so, year and a half. So it does seem like things might be picking up a little bit in some pockets, not all the areas. Again, the higher priced areas seem to still, people are kind of waiting out. Now, that being said, I said I was going to give you clear data as far as why maybe that months of supply went down. And I don't think it's just, because I know this is one comment we got previously on the channel, that people are, flocking back to the area. I don't think it's just that. I know it's not just that. There's also a lot of people deciding to take their homes off the market. And I've had some people kind of, say in a comment, I think that, that's why the months of supply is down. And yeah, I do. But it doesn't really matter too much. The reason, you want to kind of keep these things in mind, sure, but at the end of the day, what the months of supply is what the months of supply is, and that's going to kind of dictate what the market is and kind of tells you what people are thinking on both sides, both the buyer and the seller side. And so what that tells you is two possible things, maybe, and kind of maybe it could be a combination of these. One, people can't get what they want for their home to get into the new home that they want to get, or they don't want to buy a new home with a higher interest rate or whatever the case may be, and so it's kind of preventing them from selling because it just doesn't work out for them financially, and so they can't afford to sell their home anymore because they can't get the price they want or need to for it, so they're taking it off the market. That's one possibility, and I would say a reality, for a fair amount of people, absolutely. But that being said, doesn't matter if they're taking it off the market. That means there's less supply out there. That's going to keep prices a little more stable, maybe even drive them up if this keeps happening. Number two, though, I think this is something that isn't getting talked about much because people are a little behind on the narrative or the news cycle or whatever, unless you're living here. But the dynamics have changed with median sale prices going down. That's helping a little bit with insurance and property taxes, number one. Number two, but also insurance has been getting better as well as a whole because competition is coming back. And so our premium went down $300. We know someone else that, shout out to you, I think it's Michael, leaves comments. He lives in our community, left a comment. I think he said he saved like, I want to say it was like $600 from the year before, $500 on his yearly premium, so we're, and again, I got to put this out there because everyone thinks for some reason, everyone in Florida pays $7,000 a month or a year for insurance. We live about 2 miles from the coast. We don't live in a brand new home. We don't have impact windows. We don't even have hurricane shutters. We got a newish roof and we're not in a flood zone. Flood insurance is a separate thing anyway. We got it for peace of mind. I think it was like $100 for the year, 200. I don't remember. My wife paid for that one, but, our homeowner's insurance went from $2,600 to $2,300. Before, a lot of companies left the state, it was around $1,600. But right now we're sitting around $2,300. And no, I know this is another comment we got. Our deductible is not insane. It's like $3,000 or $4,000. It's up a little, I think another $1,000 or $2,000 for a hurricane, actually $3,000. So, it's not insane. Someone thought it would be like $10,000. It's like $3,000 or $4,000, and then for a hurricane, it does go up. So there's a hurricane deductible. But the point is, you get some people saying, I can't, get what I wanted for my home. And maybe one of the reasons they wanted to move to begin with is because they found it becoming unaffordable here. But if they can't get what they want for their home, and now prices are coming down for the cost of keeping that home, now you don't have as much push to sell that home. And so now, you say, you know what? I don't want to sell the home. But at first, without those costs coming down, it might have been, I don't want to sell it now. I'm going to wait till things change. As far as the market, and I can get more for it. But then if your costs start coming down, it's like then it might just change that. Hey, I'm going to take it off the market, and I'm just not going to sell. Period. And I think that's a real possibility for more people. Now, I'm not saying that's going to be like, this craze happening with less homes coming on the market, and everyone's going to want to stay now. But I think there's going to be a percentage of people that are starting to think that way. And I apologize because I don't have the exact statistic, but my wife, who's the actual realtor, told me she was going to look it up again because we were talking about it, and she couldn't remember the exact percentage, but it was like around like 40-something% of people, I forgot where exactly again, so I apologize, took their home off the market. I mean, that's a pretty, even if it's just 40 flat, and maybe she remembered it wrong and it was 30-something. That's still a lot of homes that just come off the market. That's pretty insane. So, regardless of the reason they're taking it off, that means there's less supply out there. There's less for you to pick from. There's more competitions on those homes, and that will keep prices stable, maybe put them up, or, if they do go down, they're going to go down much more slowly. That being said, at the time of filming this, which a lot of times with our editor doing the edits for us and getting the videos out there, sometimes it's like, a couple of weeks, maybe a month before it actually gets to YouTube, and we film a lot of videos ahead of time. So while I'm filming this, we're talking about places going, most areas below asking, some well below asking. It just really depends. And so I want to make sure I'm being clear about that. I'm not saying we are in a seller's market right now. It's definitely a buyer's market overall, I would say. Even in those areas, like I said before, we're at 3 months of supply. Typically, that is a seller's market, right? In some of those markets, things are still playing out right now like a buyer's market, where you can get it below asking, negotiate, and have some options out there, because there are some options out there. But it seems like that is starting to dwindle a little bit. So the takeaway I have is higher priced areas, I think we're gonna see it take a while for any movement for those to get more competitive. But the lower priced areas, it might be a good time to buy now, because if we do see interest rates go down in the next year or two, you could refinance potentially. Again, you don't want to necessarily rely on that happening, so you got to make sure you can afford it whichever way the wind blows if nothing happens. It also seems like we might be at a point where things have caught up, so to speak. We saw the market, the market was doing this. COVID, it did this. And then it kind of did this, right? But if it would keep doing this, when would it catch back up to this if you get rid of this dip? You know, when would it, just staying flat, catch up to this general curve? And we're getting kind of close to that in some markets. And so we've always said we're looking at a correction, not a crash. And what we meant by that was this steady line. If you get rid of this bump and this line just continued, it's gonna keep, you know, once it gets to there and picks up there on the train track, it's gonna keep going. We didn't think this was like an 08 situation where we did a bubble, you know, it started from here and we did a bubble and then it came way below that. We never thought it was gonna be that. I still don't think it's going to be that. So I think personally, this might be a good time to buy, because now I think we're getting close in some markets, not all, to where prices might start to go back up, or at least stay flat for a while until they catch up to that long-term norm, because they haven't quite yet. I had to get this on camera for you guys. I don't think I've ever seen, I think that's a baby gopher tortoise. I've never seen a baby one. He's scared. Sorry, little guy. Might be a box turtle, but I think that's a gopher tortoise. Leave a comment, let us know if you can tell the difference. But I think he looks like just like a gopher tortoise, but little. Again, this is purely, you know, I don't have a crystal ball, speculation. I don't know completely what's gonna happen in any market. Of course, I do not. But based on the data, based on what we've been seeing in first person, in those lower price markets, I think this could be go time, personally. You know, if you are looking to move to the area, this might be the time to do it. And by the area, I mean anywhere from Sarasota down to Port Charlotte, Inglewood, or the entire Orlando metro. Call or text us at any time, 941-221-1897. We help a lot of people save a lot of money, avoid mistakes, and find answers to those questions that sometimes are impossible to find online. And if you're looking to buy or sell a home anywhere else in Florida, you can click the link in the description, answer a few questions, and that'll get you connected with a realtor that knows the area that you are looking in, and that's anywhere in the United States, not just Florida. They'll help you do all the things that we would do for you. They're vetted realtors. But yeah, using that link does not cost you anything extra, but it is a good way to support the channel so we can keep making you videos like this one, or getting a hold of us is also, of course, a good way to support the channel. We would love to help you out. We've been helping so many people lately, and it's been a blast. And if you want to know more about what it's like to move to Florida, we got a lot of videos for you on that, like any little thing you could think of, from alligators to bugs, hurricanes, all kinds of stuff, moving process, cost of living, the home buying process, like everything. It's in this playlist. Check it out. Thanks for watching, and live breezy.